Hello everyone, D&D Breakfast Club here. I'm back for part 4 of this Wonderdraft tutorial. In this last part of this 4-part series, we're going to be covering different colors, brushes, blending the different colors. We're going to finalize some of our details, we're going to put labels on our cities, and the last thing we're going to do is put a legend on the map. That's going to let anyone that's looking at it know what's going on with the map and the different symbols. Usually I'd import this map into Photoshop and I'd create the legend there. I'm still going to show you how to do this in Wonderdraft if you don't have any Photoshop experience. Without further ado, let's get into the map. First, let's start off with some coloring. Go ahead and grab your land tool, click your brush, find your ground color. The eraser button removes all color. We're going to default to this dirt looking color. So select this and press fill. Next we're going to make a new color. We're going to make some greens. We're going to do some grasses for this map. Click the color, slide this cursor to the color that you like, and then you can go ahead and start brushing it onto your land. You'll notice that the brush size, you can increase or decrease that as well. Or you can just click the fill button and fill the entire continent and all the land surfaces with this same color. That's going to give you your base. For this, I think I'm going to do a lighter green color. And then I'm going to blend some different colors into it that'll differentiate the forest. It's going to make the mountains stand out and the cities themselves. Here I'm going to grab a second color, make it a little darker. And I'm going to start using that on some of these different areas of the map. Now I'm going to grab one more color and make it a little more yellow. You may not get this right every time, and you might have to change it in the middle of when you're making your map. That's fine as long as you find a color that you're happy with. For these mountains, we're going to paint them brown. Remember that we made these penciled mountains, so when you paint the mountain itself, it's going to change that same color. I'm not coloring in the lines. I'm going to do a little extension of that color outside of the mountains, and the reason I do that is because we're going to blend it in later. Here I'll skip through all this different coloring of the mountains and we'll go on to our next color. Go ahead and grab your darker green color. We're going to use this for all the forests. This is still a little too green, and I'm going to keep changing it until I find something that I like. It's not always apparent when you first select the color until you place it on the map and see what it looks like compared to all the other colors. Keep changing it, find something you like, and then you can apply it to your entire map. Let me speed it up once more while I'm coloring in all the forests, and we'll continue on. Now that I came back to this little island, I realized it's pretty barren and I want some life for it, so I decided that I'm gonna make some more trees and place them down. Those are some of the details you're gonna have to finalize as you're going. Even if you're in the process of coloring, don't forget that you can still do other things for the map to make it look satisfactory to you. So here I'm gonna grab some trees and I'm gonna color them in. Now we get to the blending. This is a little more difficult to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the lighter color, I'm going to change the brush to this furthest one on the right, and then when I reduce the opacity on the brush opacity, you can see that it's going to paint a little lighter each time as I switch between the colors and color in the edges. I switch to the darker color, I color the forests. I switch to the lighter color, and I color around the edges of the forest to blend it all together. The final blend is when you reduce the opacity to the lowest setting and you just hit the edges so it looks like everything blends in. I'm going to go ahead and do that for all the forest here real quick. I'm going to do a little heavier blending first and then I'll do the lighter blending afterwards. I'm doing this pretty quickly. I'm not doing it within the lines and I'm making it a little bit of a crude type of blend, so you don't have to have it perfect the first time. When I'm looking at my mountains, I want to have more than just one tone or one color to them. So I'm grabbing this color that's just a little bit darker than the other color I used for them. I'm going to paint the insides of the mountains, the most dense parts of the mountain ranges, this color. It's going to give it a little more life too. You might have noticed that I kept this north part of the continent pretty barren. That's actually intentional on my part, because what I want to do is I want to make it more of a tundra type area. I'm going to select this color white, and I'm going to brush it on real thick, full opacity. I don't want it to be perfectly straight, so I'm going to do it at somewhat of an angle, and I'm going to blend it in a little bit later. Go back to the third brush, lower your opacity, and then start brushing where the green is with the white, and then back and forth. The more you do it, the better it's going to look. Remember to keep reducing that opacity lower and lower until you have the blend that you like. Here you can see that I'm going to zoom in real close. I'm going to brush very lightly this green back onto the tundra, and I'm not going to do it in a line. I'm going to do some curved angles, some spikes, or it almost looks like I have some coastline where the tundra is, and that's going to give it a really natural look. Here I'm going to grab a little bit of a darker color, and I'm going to run it along the entirety of the coast where it's almost unnoticeable. You can barely see it as I'm doing this. Now let's go ahead and take a look at labels. You can see there's 4 different presets: city, town, water, terrain. This is actually improved in a later version of Wonderdraft that I hadn't used for this video, and they have a lot more presets later. Let's go ahead and use the default font, and I'm going to show you a few different examples of what it looks like. I'll keep the font size the same, a little bit large so you can see it, and I'm going to scroll through all these different fonts. So as you can see, there's a lot of different things that you can change with your fonts. You have outline width, font size, outline color, where it aligns, left, center, or right. You can curve your font, you can change the inside colors, you can change the outline colors. There's so much that you can do, and it's going to take a bit of experimenting to get it right. It's going to be up to you to figure out which type of fonts you want and what looks the best. Let's go ahead and use this name generator so I can start running through all the different cities quickly. You will see me struggling a little bit, but I'm not going to skip through. I'm just going to speed it up, and you'll see that there's a lot of different little things I had to do to make this work. That's probably what took the longest of this entire video, honestly. You might notice that I've actually had a bit more trouble with the label system than I've had with the rest of the mapping software. Wonderdraft is an amazing tool, and I'm not going to say that it doesn't have its faults. I think the label system needs quite a bit of improvement. It hadn't really kept my presets very well, where you make a different font type for the different villages or cities or kingdoms. When I keep changing between them, it didn't seem to want to hold on to the settings that I had them set to, so I had to redo it each time I switched through. That's a little bit annoying, and it took more time than I wanted to. I just wanted to let you know that it isn't perfect, it does have its problems, and this is probably its biggest problem overall. Okay, now that we have all that finalized, let's do the last part. So let's get into the symbols and let's make some interesting different symbols on the map. Remember when I talked to you in the beginning about map size? This is another one of the problems about using a smaller map size. You have your symbols and they're very large compared to your map. So as I'm grabbing these bridges, the symbol scale is the lowest it goes, and you can see that as I'm trying to place down this bridge, it doesn't look natural. It's a little big. It's obviously bigger than the cities that you can see. That's one of the advantages of using a bigger map, is you can make the symbol smaller. There's other ways to do this that we'll talk about later, where you can import your own symbols in the scale that you want. Let's go ahead and grab a compass, place it down on the map. I'm going to scroll through a few different other symbols, and I'm going to make a legend. I talked to you in the beginning of the video that legends, I usually would make this in Photoshop, and you're going to see why. I can't align all the symbols together. I can't make their left edge or their center perfect. I have to just eyeball that look and make sure it seems correct. It takes a little longer than it would in Photoshop, but you can do it in Wonderdraft if you want. As I was making the legend, I decided that I wanted a few more symbols on my map, and I wanted to put them on the legend, so in between making my legend, I'm going to grab some new symbols. You can see there's a few different waterfalls, and I wanted to implement one somewhere into the map, so I put it near River Storm. I decided since I already have a waterfall, why not put a mine somewhere? So you can grab this symbol, I click the mirror symbol to reverse it, and I place it in the mountains. I'll put some boulders down, some different colored rocks, and then I can change the color. I can pick a new color and paint them. In a future version of Wonderdraft, which is going to be the most updated version if that's what you're using, you can actually brush with filters, so you're not going to brush the ground color any differently. You would select symbols, and then you'd select your brush color, and you'd just brush over symbols no matter where you place the cursor and click. That is a huge improvement in my opinion. It's one of the coolest things I've seen lately for this program. I'll grab this Stonehenge looking symbol, place it somewhere that looks cool. Here I'll grab a ruined tower. Again, I'm using the old way to brush before I even found out about these filters that had been released. I'll go ahead and grab a cool looking dead tree. I'll place it down near Gale Post. This is something that I'm going to want on the legend later. I don't really like the look of the compass, so I'm going to change that too. Now let's go ahead and do some paths. Click your Path tab, and then click the Path button. And I'm going to start making different paths between the cities. Paths work a lot like rivers, where you can continue to click, move, click, move, click. And as you do that, you can curve that path over each time you do it. Let me go ahead and finish up the legend here and use the same symbols that I used on the map. I'm going to just make sure some of these colors look good, do a little bit more blending. I'm going to do some finalized details. The very last thing I'm going to want to do is I'm just going to want to make some final details. I'm going to get rid of some of the trees that are running through the rivers. I'm going to look over the entire map and make sure that nothing looks too off, and then we're going to call it a day. I remember that I was doing some rivers over here and these trees happened to be in the path, so I'll grab the eraser tool, I'll reduce it to the minimum size on the cursor, and then I'm going to drag it across the river. As I do this, you can see it's going to remove all the trees in the way. I'm going to continue to do this wherever I see trees where they shouldn't be. After looking at everything, viewing the coastlines, making sure everything looks good, I'm actually going to call this map finished. I could continue going on for a long time, especially with blending, before I think it's perfect. But when you take a look at this map, it looks like a pretty decent map. Obviously, there's a few different flaws and a few different things that I could still fix. But I'm going to do that in some different tutorials for you guys. I'm going to do some more advanced features too. Until next time, we really do appreciate your support. Thanks for stopping by and I hope you enjoyed this series. Hey everyone, if you like this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, go ahead and like the video, comment, anything you can do to help support this channel is much appreciated.